My 11th Circle presents Bowl First, my show on looking back at what just happened in this league. And you're going to be shocked, but the exact same thing happened again. Can we just cut and paste what I said yesterday and use it? So I'm just hearing from the producers, we can't do that. We actually need to make a whole new show again. Here we go. So Hyderabad were 50 for 1 at the end of the power play, and that sounds really good. I don't think that's enough when you're chasing this kind of total on this kind of pitch. And I think we need to talk about a lot more about this sort of pitch. But Warner was going quite well. He just needed one other Hyderabadian to go with him. And that did not quite happen. And it's all about this wicket, isn't it? The first 10 overs of this wicket, you can score. People don't seem to go out, and it seems to be a difficult but battable situation. And the second 10 overs are Armageddon. It is the worst wicket in the world. I mean, look at this. Look at the difference between the amount of wickets being taken at the top and the bottom. And you always get a bit of a difference. Actually, forget the amount of wickets. Look at the average. They are averaging over 50 for the first 10 overs and under 15 for the next 10 overs. You have to win these games at the top. I think I said this yesterday. And the exact same thing happened. And to be fair, I think Hyderabad knew they just couldn't quite get there for many, many different reasons. And this Chennai pitch, it is unforgiving. So what happens when you lose a game like this is everyone focuses on the collapse at the end. I am absolutely not interested in the collapse at the end. I expected the collapse at the end. If you ask my wife, I was screaming that the collapse was coming well before it came, because I could just see what was about to happen here. So let's go back to the start of Hyderabad's innings. You could even go back to the death bowling that they bowled. I think they lost it a little bit there. Riddiman Saha made 1 off 9. Now, this is tough. Here's the thing. Riddiman Saha is much better when he opens than when he doesn't open, right? So you're going to want to open him. That makes perfect sense. The problem is that they have better openers. But if he opens, that allows for greater flexibility to have an all-rounder in the middle order, which gives them a better team overall. And if you're going to play him, he kind of has to open because that's where he's at his best. Here's the thing that I hope Hyderabad have noticed, but I have certainly noticed. My first thought was, I wonder if he's just not very good at Chennai. And it turns out that he is very not good at Chennai. He's extremely not good at Chennai. Let's have a look at this for a moment here. Of the places where he's played 6 or more games, Chennai is the second worst place when it comes to his batting average. He's just never made runs at this ground. And he's played here quite a lot. It's just never happened for him. That isn't the bigger problem with him. Let's have a look at his strike rate. Oh my, he cannot... Not only does he not score runs, he does not score them slowly. It is the absolute worst case scenario for them. Don't forget, this is not even the only game that they have here as well. They really want him to work as an opener, and they have put him into a situation where he's opening at the place that is not going to work for him. I just, hopefully he makes runs next game and he proves us wrong a little bit. But he's averaging 18 and he's striking at barely a run a ball. He does not like Chennai. That's okay. Not everyone likes everywhere. Think back to that quick start I was talking about. This was quite a lag on that. Imagine what they would have had if he'd even just made 10 off 9 or 9 off 9. A huge difference with that opening power play. Now we're going to fast forward just a little bit here. The commentators kept saying on the broadcast that the big turning point in this game was Bairstow getting out. The big turning point in this game was not Bairstow getting out. It happened a long time before that. Let's talk about Manish Pandey for a little bit. Let's talk about for the fact that he hit a 6 in the 8th over, and at that stage he had 26 off 20. He did not hit another boundary off then. Not hitting another boundary is one thing, but he really allowed himself to be bogged down. So much so, let's fast forward from that 6 just a little bit to the 12th over. Harshal Patel comes on. Hyderabad needs 63 off 54 at that point. Warner has hit 2 boundaries in the previous over, and they're just starting to look like about to ramp up a little bit with 2 set batters at the crease. Manish Pandey then faces 4 straight dot balls. That's suboptimal. That's very suboptimal. That's supremely suboptimal. He faces 4 dot balls in a row, and it gets slightly worse. He then gets a full toss at or around the leg stump and clips it for 1. So he's now faced 4 straight dot balls and then clipped a very poor ball for a single without really any intent to hit it for more than a single from what I could tell. Maybe being a bit harsh on him, but at this stage, the 4 dot balls have coloured my view of this a little bit. David Warner then faces the last ball that over. It is clear that David Warner wants a single because he does not want Manish Pandey to be striking at the start of the next over. So he hits the ball basically straight to cover and just takes off. He almost runs himself out. I think there was a misfield, or maybe he just got away with it because he mishit the ball. I can't remember the exact situation there, but he gets off strike, but there was a big chance that a good fielder at cover there, and he's run out. The next ball, the first ball of the 13th over we're in now, he hits the ball straight to the deep sweeper. Okay, not straight to him, but straight enough. And I was thinking, he's going to run 2 regardless here. And guess what? He ran 2 regardless here. And he's almost run out again. So that is twice in 2 balls that he has almost run out. He then struggles a little bit himself at the end of the over. Manish Pandey doesn't hit any boundaries because, as we've just said, the next over, Warner is facing Kyle Jamieson. Kyle Jamieson bowls a short back of the length ball straight away. Warner almost hits it back onto his stumps. He gets a very similar ball, next ball, and tries to flat bat it over long on for 6. Now, there was a time when that was Warner's shot. I'm not sure on this pitch, with his shoulder as it currently is, if that is still his shot. He gets caught. That was the turning point. Well, actually, that's not even the turning point. The 4-dot balls were the turning point. When Warner got that 2, when he stole that 2, his strike rate was, I think, just over 150 at that stage, and Manish Pandey's was under 100. All the wickets that fell later on were predictable, right? We knew that was going to happen. We talked about it yesterday. By we, I mean me talking at you. But you agreed. You're a smart cricket fan. I could see it in your eyes. And it's not that Manish Pandey's ever been known for having a big strike rate or anything like that. He's a career low strike rate guy. We know that now. But 4-dot balls at that stage, that allowed them to get way behind the rate. And they never even got close to it again here. You have to kill this chase early. And if you don't kill it early, you have to at least stay well above the rate. Run a ball on this pitch is not at the rate. I know there are people in the comments from yesterday still complaining about that. It's not. You cannot score safely at a run a ball on this pitch in the second half of the innings. We have seen it time and time again, and you certainly can't do it with new batters at the crease, which means that the guys who are in and set have to push it a little bit harder. It is unfair to blame this all on Manish Pandey, and I'm not. I've already mentioned Ridham Saha as well. In fact, I'll go back even further and talk about the death bowlers. There isn't one thing. No one gets blamed for this, but everyone plays a part in this game. Manish Pandey's part in this was taking up a lot of screen time and not having a lot of cool one-liners. So that is Hyderabad and what they did. Let's just go over to Bangalore a little bit because we need to talk about Harshal Patel because he did it again. This is a guy who really hasn't been a bowler in T20 cricket consistently in his career. He's been a journeyman. He's travelled around. No one's really ever thought that much of him. He bowled well in the warm-ups and in the nets before this series, and Bangalore took a huge punt and decided he was going to be their death bowler. Twice he's been really, really good. He's been instrumental in both of their victories so far. Now, this is both on the same pitch. This pitch certainly suits his bowling. He gets a lot of purchase on his slower ball. He gets a lot of rip on his slow ball, and this pitch helps that obviously as it does for spinners. It's also just when that ball gets old, it's almost like someone just takes the air out of it completely. That also helps it because he can bowl very, very slow there. He got reverse swing in the first game. A lot of things are going right for him at the moment. But let's also say that he's played 50 games in this league, and the last 2 would certainly be up there towards 2 of the best he has ever played. Probably 2 of his best 5 at the very least. That's a remarkable turnaround for someone that no one even thought was, a frontline player coming into this. Everyone thought was a question mark, and so far he's been a strength. How he goes away from this pitch is fascinating. But right at the moment, he's bowling brilliantly, and he played a huge part in this victory. So far in this series, I've talked a lot about Kyle Jamieson and his bowling. I talked about it at the draft. I talked about it in the last game. Just want to quickly have a look at his batting. He's batting at number 8 in this team. And we know that a lot of teams try and cheat with their number 7. Jai Richardson batting at number 7. We have had Pat Cummins batting at number 7. I think Kyle Jamieson is a better batter than both of those guys, and he's coming in at 8. That's incredible depth for Bangalore. But we also saw what he could do. He only made 12 off 9, which is, it's 12 off 9. But he hit a couple of boundaries straight away, which allowed Glenn Maxwell to really settle in towards the end so he could explode a little bit. So really important innings from Kyle Jamieson. And then he took a wicket again with the old ball in the middle. Put up the stats now about how good he's been in New Zealand with a new ball. That's almost irrelevant at a certain point in this league because he's not going to get New Zealand-like conditions very often. In fact, so far, he's not even had a favourable surface. But what he has had is the ability to come on late in the game, bowl short, and get a wicket with bounce. And he's done that in both games so far. While I thought this was a possibility, I really didn't think this would happen. And so it's really an incredible effort from him to be able to do it twice already so far. He did go for runs a little bit here, but he has not played yet on a surface that is made for someone 6'11" or what, I don't know how tall. He feels very tall to me. Glenn Maxwell in this league. What are you going to do? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to explain it? No one can explain it. If we could explain it, he'd do it all the time. If we could explain it, he'd either fail all the time and no longer get paid the money he gets paid, or he'd be successful all the time and we wouldn't have to talk about this anymore. And he's spectacularly neither of those things. He can be their best player in a game or even basically a season, and he can be close to the worst. I mean, it's an incredible spectrum. His ceiling is so high and his floor is so low. At one stage, the commentators were saying that Virat was going up to him and saying, you need to take it easy. And then the other commentator said, actually, I think Virat was saying that he needs some freedom and just to play the way he plays. This is the thing with Glenn Maxwell. Has any player ever got more advice while being as talented as Glenn Maxwell? Everywhere he goes, everyone tells him everything he has done to be successful is wrong. They're always questioning his methods. And look, I don't understand what he has done in this league. It's not that he just makes runs in Dubai, because he hasn't just made runs in Dubai. Maybe he bats better when he has a stronger batting lineup around him. But to be honest, back in the days when he played for Victoria, he used to play his best cricket when Victoria was collapsing all around. I don't understand Glenn Maxwell. All I would say is this. In his 2 innings so far, he has looked great on a pitch that you would not say is going to get the best out of Glenn Maxwell. All right, you fantasy gamers out there, let's have a little bit of a look at the My 11 Circle. Fantasy, are they tips? They're more like fantasy tidbits, aren't they? It's more like a fantasy amuse-bouche, if you will. More looking forward to, things that you can take from this game that might help you in the future with your fantasy gaming. I don't know if Harshal Patel will continue to be this good all the way through the tournament. He's certainly going to get met at the death on occasions. He's certainly going to be in situations that don't favour him as much as these two games have. But he kind of likes this pitch, doesn't he? I think I'd be thinking that this is a wicket taker who's going to bowl at the death when wickets fall on this pitch again. And unless they completely change the surface and use one of these red clay guys, I think Harshal Patel is a very, very good option every game that they play in Chennai. Everyone seems to have abandoned Chahal, and I get it. And I don't feel like he's at the top of his game anymore, and he may not be a good enough player to play for India, but I actually thought he bowled quite well at times today, and he looked a little bit more confident for me. They're going to be playing on this surface again. The ball is going to be spinning again. Be interesting to see how it goes. Maybe I can't sell you on this one, but maybe if you have a spare spot in your 11 next time, and you're wavering a little bit, maybe he's the guy to come in. But I just feel like he's due a couple of wickets on this surface right at the moment. I think we've now seen that for whatever reason that Kohli does not believe in Sundar and Shabazz as frontline spinners. I actually thought they both bowled really well today. I know one of them took 3 wickets in an over, which is quite handy, but I thought both of them bowled quite well at times, and realistically, it doesn't make sense to not use them. It feels like he's using them purely as a matchup ploy at the moment, which doesn't make that much sense anyway, because Washington Sundar is actually really good against right-handers. But regardless of that, it's clear that Kohli is not about to bowl them out. So I think it's a risk using them. But Sundar did look a little bit more at home in the middle orders in a sort of more normal spot for him. I know he didn't end up with a great strike rate, but I thought early on he looked good. I still think his best role is really going to be coming in. Maybe if they lose a wicket in the first 3 overs of the power play and you allow him to bat at the end of the power play, then when he's set, he can attack the spinners with the harder ball. I'm not sure he's going to be able to come in and just roast the ball, especially on this particular pitch when he comes in later. So I would certainly use him earlier. But I think they know they have a really good player in him. They're just not sure. And Kohli he's not all in on Sundar, is he? If you're not going to bowl him here, I wouldn't be sure about keeping him in my fantasy team. It's worth mentioning that Saha will most probably be opening again in the next game unless they change the order and open the batting with Johnny Besto. And the next game will be in Chennai. I know that you fantasy players love having openers in your team. I don't know. It's a bit risky, I think. Jason Holder came in today and bowled very, very well. Batted at 7. I think for maximum impact with the bat, he really needs to bat probably 4 or 5. There's probably not a spot for him in this particular team, but I think that's where his skills are best suited. Not sure he's the guy that comes in and hits the ball straight away perfectly. I like him a little bit up the order, especially using the long levers. All tall guys have long levers, don't they? We love a long lever in cricket. But that's where I think he should bat. But he bowled very well, took 3 wickets. Worth keeping an eye out for him in future games, for sure. Especially as they might push him up the order. That's just my idea, of course, at this stage. But there you go. There are the fantasy tips. That's what happened in the game. My 11 circle. Get over there. Do your fantasy. Just fantasy all over on the keyboard. Just fantasy, fantasy, fantasy. Pick your teams. I'll see you here tomorrow.